Okay, big update last night, which we're all just trying to get familiar with, is the new Canvas feature within the Gemini app. This is actually available to everybody. And so the Canvas feature, in fact, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take the very dangerous course of trying this live. The Canvas feature, when you get to the Gemini app, you'll see this in the lower bar just down here. Now, depending on the model that you choose, so you can choose your Gemini model that you're interacting with. I believe it's only available with the Flash model for now, I believe. So anyway, I'm on the Flash model, and then just down here, I can select Canvas. And what Canvas will do, it allows you to interact with what you're generating. So here I'm, playing around with my vibe coding. I know a lot of people have been talking about that. Basically coding for people who can't code, which is me. Dropped in, I want to create a simple game of Hangman, which is embeddable. So now I drop this into Canvas and it will generate this code. And you can see on the left-hand side, we have the prompt that you put in. And on the right-hand side, we can see the code that's being generated. Now, rather than wait for that, I prepared the output already. And we can see here, we've got our code that's been generated. And you can preview the output alongside the code. So when you preview the output, we have a simple interactive game of Hangman here. We can preview the code. We can see if it's working or not. And it was earlier. It's just my guesses are very, very bad. But there we go. So you can preview the code you can preview, in this case, the game alongside your code. Once you're happy with that, you go back to the code and you can actually copy the code and you can easily go to Google Sites. For example, in this case, just copy that code again, 1 second. You can drop the code into an HTML bed inside of Google Sites. And then when you go ahead and publish your Google site and share it, that code becomes, you can interact with that code. So it's a very, very simple way to go from idea to simple interaction inside of Google Sites. That's one way in which you can use it. I think maybe Bogdan, you might talk about this a little bit later as well, or in the Gemini updates. But that is Canvas inside of Gemini. Very exciting. You can do other things as well. You can generate documents, design templates, and so on. That's one way in which you can use it. Okay, just going to get back to the slides 1 second. Okay, next up is Gemini, another Gemini update. A lot of Gemini updates this month. I should just preface this with. Gemini has an update where you can now preview files inside of Google Chat. So you can just see there the animated GIF, of course. What you can do when somebody shares a file, rather than opening the file to understand what it's about, you can now see just the little summarize this file button just next to it or just underneath it. So rather than having to go to the file and going through the file to see what it's all about, you can now just do that directly within Google Chat using Gemini. Okay, Gmail data loss prevention is now supporting snippets, which is going to make it easier for you to get insights as to if a message is being flagged by one of your DLP rules inside of Gmail. It can be much easier to see what portion of that message has been flagged. And this is a really good one. Sticking with DLP, so your Gmail DLP rules, which are based upon classification labels, are now going to be automatically flagged. So when the user is actually writing an email, they're going to see something pop up, which will warn them that something has been flagged by a DLP rule. So for example, if you put in some student data, for example, a financial data, a credit card number, and that's being flagged by a DLP rule inside of Gmail, which you've already got set up, the user would be warned in line with that email message, rather than sending the message and it going to quarantine, for example, or not being sent and user being warned, but it's not been sent. So being warned at the time with a pop-up. So the DLP rules. Another update for, well, actually, this is for not just for Gemini, this is for Education Plus users as well. this is a new building block inside of Google Docs. So if you're familiar with the building blocks, you can do things like there's a email building block, there's a meeting notes building block. You type the ampersand, the @ sign inside of Google Docs, it will suggest different building blocks you have available. This one is AI summary. So with the AI summary, you can add that building just at the top and it will summarize the entire document for you. So you don't need to create that summary. So if you're drafting a report, for example, you can automatically have it create the summary of that report. Okay, an update to data retention policies on Google Chat. So up until now, all Google Chat messages have obeyed the retention policy of the receiver of the message. I'll see if I can explain this clearly. That is changing now to obey the retention policies of the sender and the receiver. So for example, if I have a 10-day data retention policy, Bogdan has a 20-day retention policy. When we interact, assuming we're on separate domains, when we interact, my messages will be deleted after 10 days, but Bogdan's, his own messages will be retained for 20 days. So you may see if you're chatting to somebody from a separate domain, an external domain, you may see some of their messages delete based upon their data retention policy. Right, some very big, getting onto some of the bigger Gemini updates now. So you may have seen, there's a lot of talk about deep research a few weeks ago and the thinking model. Inside of Gemini, you've got several models. And when we jumped into Gemini Chat a moment ago, we saw the drop down of the different models. One of them is the Flash model, like that's the default model. There's also the thinking model and the deep research model. Now deep research is being included for free within the Gemini app. So now everybody has access to deep research. There is a limit to the number of deep research reports that you can run. So for example, if you wanted to do research about the latest strategies for teaching grade 7 mathematics, a personal favorite of mine, then you could use deep research to do that. It will produce a report. It will go through the web. It will search, depending on what you're researching, 50 or hundreds of different sources and create a report upon that. Now, there is a limit to the number of times you can do that for free. It was 5, and I think they've just upgraded it to 10. Not absolutely clear on that. There's so many releases, still keeping up to date with that. I think I saw on Twitter they've just updated that to 10. But anyway, in general, deep research is free and people have access to it. This is one we've talked about. Yeah, Brian, that's right, 10 a month. I believe 10 a month. It appears that Twitter is the source of truth for the Google updates at the moment. It's being updated more rapidly than their updates blog. This we've talked about over the last few months, reconfirmation for additional services for under 18 users. This is coming up very soon, actually the end of March. It should be finally in place. If you haven't seen this yet, I know we've mentioned this before, but you just go to the admin console, just reconfirm that all of your additional services that are enabled for under 18s, you've received consent. You will see just on the image there, it's quite small, but there is a red banner on the image there. Just that one there. That red banner you will see on the homepage of the admin console, regardless of if you have reconfirmed or not. So that will stay there. It's not on the homepage. It's not based upon what you've actually done. I just discovered this today with Google support. When you go through, this is on the list of apps. I know it's a small image, but the list of apps down there, that red banner is warning you that you still have apps which you have not obtained consent for yet, or you haven't told Google that you've obtained consent. But on the homepage, so when you go to admin console, you may see the red banner, even though you've done this for every app. If you still see the red banner, you can just tap on dismiss and it will make it go away. So if you've already gone through this process, completed at 100%, you're still seeing the banner on the homepage, just click dismiss and that will get rid of it. Okay, I think we just mentioned this. And again, this is just underlining that deep research is available and gems. So custom gems are now available for everybody as well in the Gemini app. And so this was just announced as well. So deep research and gems, And I think, Bogdan, you're going to maybe have a quick look at deep research a little bit later. So I'll let you talk about that. Okay, AppSheet, personal favorite of ours is AppSheet is now embeddable in Google Sites. So of course you can provide the mobile experience, you can provide the web experience to users, but now you can embed this directly inside of Google Sheets as well. This is really good if you have a number of different AppSheet apps across the organization that you're providing users access to. So they may lose, track of which app they should be accessing for a specific workflow. Well, now you can collate them all inside of a Google site and provide access to them there if you so wish to make them embeddable. Again, another one of these updates. This is a language update for the Take Notes for Me feature. So inside of Gemini, if you have a Gemini premium license, you have Take Notes for Me enabled on Google Meet. You finish up a Google Meet and notes will be sent to everybody participating in the Meet inside of a domain. Those are now available in additional languages. I think the list is there. Yeah, French, German, Italian, Japanese, Korean, Portuguese, and Spanish. A lot of language updates. Hard to keep up to date with which languages are now available everywhere for Gemini. So I do recommend just checking support for all of that because it is changing rapidly. And again, another one for try to collate them all here. Additional languages. Now this is for recorded captions and transcripts. Additional languages are available, Italian, Korean, and Japanese as well. So those are also available. Gemini had a small update. So if you're interacting in the paid version, the premium version of Gemini, in the side panel of Google Drive, then you're actually now able to create files. So if you're looking at a file inside your Google Drive and you want to create a template of that, for example, or if you want to create a new copy of that for usage, then you can just do that inside the side panel. So you can create a file, and I'm presuming that they will make it available so you can create customizations about that file as well. Now, I remember a long time ago in Gmail, I'm sure I always used to get this, which was when you received an event that you could add to calendar, there would be an add calendar button. And that seemed to disappear for me. So if you booked flights, you got the email confirmation, there was a little button there saying, do you want to add these to calendar? And sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. Well, now there's a Gemini button enabling this. So if you have Gemini, you will have a button inline in your email that says add to calendar. And it will take the details of whatever you're looking at, and it will create an event in calendar for that. Oops, let's go back. A slight update to Gemini application, so the Gemini chat app, I beg your pardon. The Gemini chat app, you can enable extensions. They've renamed those to apps. So the extensions it was confusing. In Gemini, you had to enable Gemini to access your Google Drive or your Gmail content, and they were called extensions. They've now renamed those to be apps. So if you go to the Gemini chat app, you go to settings, you will see that there are apps that you can enable. And we always recommend to enable all of those because then it will have access to your account content. Okay, a little update if you're using Gemini to Google Meet. The generator background feature has been updated it's using the latest image generation model. If you've looked at the image generation now from Google, it's actually really good. I mean, it's years ahead of where it was at 1 year ago. We talked about that before. It's actually a very, very good image generation model. When you generate an image for a Meet background, it will come up with, you can just see that, a recommended list of ideas for backgrounds that you can generate, but you can generate your own as well. You can say, my office in a tropical location or something like that, and it will generate the background. So that's been updated. Okay, I left this one in here because I do know a couple of schools which are using Salesforce. If you are using, so this is going to be quite niche, if you are using Salesforce and Gemini, then there is now an extension available to be able to interact with Salesforce data inside of Gmail. So if you have Gemini, you're able to connect to Salesforce all inside of email. So rather than going to Salesforce to look at your data, you can do that directly in Gemini, in Gmail. Things that you could do, for example, is you could ask Salesforce about information about the person that you're emailing or the deal or the lead. Other things you can do research inside of Gemini as well. So it's really integrating Salesforce and Gmail using Gemini. Quick update here to Google Chat. And again, I think this is pretty niche actually, but I did like it. I was thinking of Peter actually when I was looking at this one. In Google Chat now, you can actually use Markdown now to format your text. So if you're inserting any code snippets into Google Chat, you can have those nicely formatted inside of Google Chat. I think we already saw this a while ago, or maybe not. I'm losing track of all the Gemini updates, but now in Gemini Chat, anybody can upload files directly into the Gemini app. So you can do this from Drive, or you can do this locally as well. Some of the file types covered are the Microsoft Doc file types, so Doc, DocX, and so on. Also PDF. You can upload directly from Google Docs, text files, PowerPoint, and so on. So anybody can do that now inside of the Gemini app. Quick update to Google Vids. Actually, please give us a reaction. Has anybody used Google Vids and shared Google Vids with their community? Have they created a Google Vid and shared it? Thank you, Brian. Oh, there's a few people. That's great. That's good. I thought it was just going to be Brian there for a moment. Yeah, Google Vids is great. I played around with it quite a lot myself. I do like it. There's a couple of updates to Google Vids. One of them is there's a looping animations feature now. So if you add something that's an extended portion on the timeline, that animation will loop until it goes to the next section of the timeline. There's another update to Vid as well I just saw. Oh yeah, AI voiceovers have been updated. So rather than if you are using a Gemini license with Google Vid, you now have an additional set of voices. So before they were very generic voices, sort of very monotonous voices, I think I would say as well. And now they have these additional voices. So from educator to explainer to coach and motivator. So you can play around with these. So if you are Gemini will create a script, and then you can use one of these voiceovers, one of these voices to generate the voiceover. Of course, you can record your own voice for the voiceover, or you can use one of these AI generated voices. Okay, quick update to Google Voice, and really I'll let Peter talk about this a little bit later, but Google Voice now supports call delegation. I know Peter's going to be diving into this. I'll let Peter talk about this a bit later. A lot of updates to video playback within Google Drive. You've probably seen over the last couple of years, they've essentially used a version of a YouTube player inside of Google Drive for video playback. They've improved the latency, and now that video transcripts are available as well. So you can now see a transcript of your video on the right-hand side alongside the video as it's playing back. So again, it's making Google Drive a good place to host video and play video back from as well. Quick update to Google for admins for chat analytics. I won't go through everything that's available here, but there's additional chat analytics available in the admin console. I know a couple of schools were just talking recently about, are their users using Google Chat or not? This is a great way to go in and see the total number of messages and users active and so on and so on. A number of different analytics. Of course, you could take these analytics via BigQuery and generate, if you wanted to, a Looker Studio report on those analytics. Just a quick one. Actually, just Matthew, just looking at so Matthew just mentioned it was broken earlier today and then fixed this afternoon. Yeah, yeah. These new updates tend to be not always completely reliable when they're just announced. Okay, take notes for me in Google Meet. So if you're using obviously Gemini in Google Meet, you have take notes for me on as well. Then it will actually capture citations in the transcript. Citations to the transcript. So if you see something, if you see a note in the meeting you'd like to learn a bit more about, or you want to check about, if you tap on that note, it will highlight the area in the transcript as well. Okay, I know we did talk about this before, but the policy API has improved and it's expanded what it covers now. You can now use the API to audit calendar, Gmail, and multi-factor authentication settings as well. That's in addition to all the settings that were announced last month. So the policy API is a good way to sort of internally monitor and audit the settings that you have. And lastly, just trying to keep to time here. I know I talked about all the different languages. This summarizes all the different languages that Gemini is currently supporting in the side panel. I expect this to change pretty rapidly. This is what's being supported at the moment. I believe this is up to date. up to date for now until Google announces an update on Twitter. Okay, that's all of that's most of the updates and about 70% of the updates. The slide deck has the rest, but I do believe we've got the main ones that people need to be aware of.